Welcome back to another episode of the Ball First Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony. Just want to say sorry for the lack of videos. Been just under a month now with no videos, so sorry for the lack of content. Just life happened. But anyways, let's jump right into the video. Today I will be going over my World Cup quarterfinal predictions as the World Cup starts. The quarterfinals start tomorrow. I just want to start off by saying what a World Cup we've had so far. Obviously supporting Mexico. We had our heartbreak. I'll switch over to the official bracket right now. And clearly right here we can see this 3-2 Mexico game. I don't want to get too bogged down on it because this is a quarterfinals prediction. But I will go over the past rounds because I know I only did this was before the group stage. So I just want to go over some surprising results like the Paraguay over Germany. For a while we've kind of known that Germany might be a little bit finished, but still to get knocked out by Paraguay is crazy. What else? Oh, Netherlands, Morocco. That was a game. That was a crazy game. Watching that game live, getting off of work, and watching those penalties. That's just crazy. Portugal versus Croatia. Obviously, some controversy there at the end with I believe it was the offsides. Let's see what else. Belgium, Senegal. Crazy last minute penalty. Let's see what else. Penalties here in Australia. Argentina, Cape Verde. I'm trying to stay very unbiased here. As a Ronaldo fan, but I just gotta call out the controversy. I just gotta call out the corruption here for Argentina just a little bit. Um, as Malika Andrews once told Tyrese Halliburton in the NBA playoffs, I forgot exactly what the quote was. She says, "One time could be an accident, two times, could be a coincidence, three times the truth, and what's the fourth time?" We can obviously say that. Messi's just that good, but I think, which he is, I personally think he's second best player of all time. Ronaldo's still my GOAT, which also I'll probably plug some photos probably about right here and here. I'll probably plug in a little photos. I went to the Portugal versus Spain game, but yeah, this Argentina team, it's not even just Messi, it's Argentina as a whole. And I don't want to get into the political side of it, but in a soccer standpoint, to get 7 penalties the last World Cup and 2 so far this World Cup, it's crazy to me. And I know these 3 of the 5 refs for the last game against Egypt were French, so obviously you can say the favoritism, but there was a lot of controversial calls, and I'm not saying that some the calls were right or wrong. I just think they're very double standards, and that if they get called for Argentina, they don't get called for Egypt, or if they get called for Egypt, they don't get called for Argentina. All I'm asking for is just some consistency. I think, whether you believe they were fouls or they weren't fouls, just keep them the same both ways. So I don't want to get too bogged down on that. But yeah, I just got to call that out real quick. Back to the bracket. Brazil versus Norway. That was a crazy game. Holland, just showing why he's one of the biggest threats, goal scoring threats that we've seen ever. And then this Mexico England game, you know, as a as a Mexican American, supporting Mexico. That was just I didn't even my fault. I didn't even fully do the Mexico Ecuador. That was a great game. Obviously going into this game as a Mexican fan, we had hopes, playing at the Azteca, going against England, who, we saw that they were struggling with the Florida heat. And, obviously the rain delay, the game possibly getting moved back to noon, and then obviously going back to 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it was. But yeah, so I just want to say Javier Aguirre did a really good job with the squad that we had. And in 2022, I had no hopes going into the 2026 World Cup. And so, being able to have this hope, and although this loss hurt for me as a Mexican, I have hope for the future. And with Rafa Marquez taking over, I believe in 2030 we can do something great as well. So yeah, it hurt, especially being a Madrid fan and Jude scoring those 2 goals back to back in 2 minutes. Yeah, I just think it was crazy. So yeah, back to the bracket. Argentina, Egypt, obviously more controversy there. Won't get too bogged down on that. Switzerland, Colombia, that was crazy. I feel for my Colombians out there. I believe that one was crazy too. USA, Belgium, very surprising result. Portugal, Spain, like I said, I'll go over this a little bit. I believe this Portugal team really disappointed. I would maybe you could possibly say they were the flops of the tournament, or maybe Germany, but it just blew my mind that I believe I said Ronaldo should come on as a super sub, and you know what? I believe he was better than Gonzalo Ramos, and he probably was a better choice than Gonzalo Ramos. But whatever the coach's name, I don't even remember. Roberto Martinez, I believe was his name. The way he played that midfield and the way that he wanted to build that team around Ronaldo, respectfully, as a Ronaldo fan, I have the Ronaldo Lego right there, and I have this Ronaldo Lego right here that y'all don't see on the camera. Ronaldo's not the same player he was in his prime. Ronaldo can't create for himself no more. He needs the service into the box. And Nuno Mendes does that. Rafael Leao did that. João Felix did that. But to start Pedro Neto, that guy is the same thing with Mexico. Subbing off Quinones and Mora in the England game, whenever those were the only two that could create for themselves. Having Gallardo and having Piojo, who couldn't cross necessarily that good that game. And it just sometimes these coaches' decisions blow my mind. And that's how I felt with this Portugal team. Is that on paper, you have the best. I had Portugal as my World Cup winners, and now I look like an idiot. I had Bruno Fernandes as my player of the tournament, and this midfield on paper, it's one of the best midfields we've ever seen. João Neves and Vitinha coming off back-to-back UCLs with PSG. Bruno Fernandes coming off possibly player of the season in the Premier League, and they just couldn't work. They just couldn't work, and I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's Ronaldo's ego, not wanting them to play behind, not wanting the players to play behind. But I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the other players' egos behind Ronaldo. Because as much as you could say the controversy behind Argentina, those Argentinians, those players, they ride for Messi. Like we obviously joke about the videos of the players walking behind Messi and not really walking behind Ronaldo, which I think they do. But like Ronaldo didn't necessarily play with bums. He didn't have as good as a squad on paper back then, winning the Euros or winning the Nations League, than as he does now. And yet these players now, they don't want to play for him, and it's wild to me because for Argentina, they had a Maradona to look up to, and so those players grew up looking up to Maradona, including Messi, and then obviously they had Messi to look up to. For Portugal, they had what, Eusebio in the 50s, and it was nobody. It was Ronaldo. Ronaldo is Portugal. When you think of Portugal, you think of Cristiano Ronaldo. And so to have these players with these high egos not wanting to respect Cristiano Ronaldo, like, and I know he didn't have a great tournament, but he's 41. You can't expect him to play as well as he did in his prime in 2016 and all that stuff as he does now. And like I said, he needs the service into the box. He can't create for himself. And so we see all these plays of him running around with the ball and losing it because he's so old. Ronaldo is 41 years old, and he's having to carry this Portuguese team. And he didn't do a good job. They got knocked out, and he scored what, 3 goals? But okay, I don't want to get too bogged down on that. I'll show the pictures. Cristiano Ronaldo's my goal. I was very sad to see him go. Picture there again, and picture there again. But hopefully I edit that into the video so it doesn't look corny. But back to the tournament, or the bracket. Canada, Morocco. I believe this scoreline doesn't really show the how close the game was. France, Paraguay. Don't want to get to the political side of it once again, but obviously all the racist remarks towards Kylian Kiki Lebonzi. But yeah, all right. Now for the official video. Coming in to the World Cup quarterfinals, today is July 8th. Obviously, they start tomorrow. Our first game tomorrow, we have a France versus Morocco at 3 p.m. Central Time. And what a game! What a game this is! Morocco obviously beating Canada and beating Netherlands, two very, or Netherlands, a top nation in Canada, up and coming nation. France, I guess we could say, really haven't been tested. You know, excuse me. They cleared their group. Obviously, that last game against Norway. Norway had their, excuse me. Norway had their B team in, and obviously, you play against a Sweden who, in all honesty, wasn't that well, and Paraguay, who obviously, I know one nail shows it possibly was a close game. In all honesty, you're still playing against Paraguay. I feel like this is France's first time for adversity, and I know a couple people that have France as their flops of the tournament, and this very well could be. Morocco's coming off a high, with a 3-0 confidence boost against Canada, and then beating Netherlands, a top nation. But for me, I don't think on here I think over here, this is the one. For me, I still have France winning. I have France winning. I do think it'll be let's see if I can do ties on here. I haven't tried this. I guess not. Okay, yeah, France wins on, I don't think they win on, I think they win on penalties. I think France got it. 2-2 for me, in all honesty. I just think this France team is too strong. And not that Morocco can't handle them. They've obviously shown that, but I believe Saibari is still down with an injury. So, that's very hard to deal with. Your best goal scorer so far in the tournament, not being there. And so, yeah, I think France takes that game. I believe it'll be, mm, I think it'll be England, Norway has a chance to be game of the round of the quarterfinal, but I think France, Morocco takes it. And it sucks that it's 3 p.m. tomorrow and I have work tomorrow. So, a little upset about that, but, I'll catch the highlights, or maybe I'll record a try not to get no spoilers and watch the full game. But yeah, I just think the attack for France, and I know I said they really haven't faced any adversity. I think they'll shut a lot of the haters up with this game, and I think they will win. I won't say it'll be too crazy of a win, but I think they can definitely pull it off. So, okay, over here, got France winning on penalties. Does it show? Uh, oh, okay, there we go. Okay, sorry. Had a little working it out. Okay, then obviously we move on to the next game. Next game's on Friday. We have Belgium versus Spain, both topping their groups. Spain coming off a pretty good high, beating Portugal, and obviously it was a 1-0 win. You had a last minute winner, which I'll just say really quick. I went to that game. I was recording the wave in the stadium because it was the 90th minute, and I had hopes that it would go to extra time. It goes to the wave, and then I'm like, what in the world just happened? That goal happened so quickly. In all honesty, I wasn't really watching the video play, so I really can't speak too much on it. But I just think that was crazy. And then Belgium, coming off a high, beating USA and getting a last minute winner against Senegal. Obviously, those two nations aren't top nations in the World Cup like Portugal was, but those are still very very respectable nations. USA, especially coming off a crazy high, they had also high hopes of making it to the quarterfinals. Same with Mexico. You can argue, you can say they play better than Mexico. I know in the World Cup rankings, Mexico's ranked higher, but USA had a very great squad, or not a very great squad, but a very great tournament so far, and it just sucked that they lost to Belgium. So yeah, but I'm be honest here. I don't really see a way Belgium wins this at all. I think it'll be comfortable for Spain. I think it'll be 3-1. I think maybe the Catalar gets him another one. I think it sucks because I think oh nah, I think definitely still this camera. I think definitely maybe I don't know, maybe Ferran Torres or Yarzabal gets on the scoring sheet. I know Yarzabal had a very bad finish that he didn't convert in the Portugal game. But yeah, I don't think Lamine gets him one. I think he gets him I think he gets him an assist. I think Courtois is still good, too good. I think the defense for Belgium isn't. I think the USA attack just didn't play well in that game. So I think conceding 2 goals to Senegal. I think Spain. I know Spain's attack obviously isn't their strong point. You can always say it's their weak point, but Yamal, I think, can still show just how great he is. And I think him putting that service into the box. I think I still think they could put 3 past Courtois. I just think the Belgium defense isn't good enough. So yeah. So wait, I completed. Is that even the right side of the bracket? Yo, what? This isn't even the right side of the bracket, yo. Okay. All right. Well, sorry about that. I have France beating. I don't know. I wish I could do this. All right. I have France beating Morocco, obviously, and then I have Spain beating Belgium. That's on the left side of the bracket. On the right side, we have a double header Saturday night. Luckily, I am off. I had hopes that Mexico would be playing in this game, or even a Portugal Argentina quarterfinal, which obviously didn't happen. So yeah, I'm off, and then we also have a UFC fight, but soccer video. Start us off with England versus Norway, 4 p.m. Central Time. I think this is also, like I said, I think this also has potential to be um game of the not necessarily tournament, but game of the round, the quarterfinals. I think both teams coming off a pretty good high. England beating Mexico in the Azteca, handing Mexico their first ever World Cup loss at the Azteca, and Norway, beating Brazil. I know Brazil obviously isn't the nation they once used to be, but they're still a very respectable nation. They still have Vinicius Jr. They still have all this firepower. And for Norway, I believe it's their first World Cup in 30 years. Or Holland, I know for sure, his first World Cup. To score 2 goals in the round of 16. I think this Norway team has shown that they're a force to be reckoned with. I think that attack is very dangerous, and with the English backline, it can be very shaky at times. That midfield as well. But that being said, while I don't think it is coming home, I do have England beating Norway. I think it'll be a pretty high scoring game. I have 3-2. I'll go 3-2 for the France England. Or I'm sorry, Norway England in favor of Norway. I mean in favor of France or in favor of England. Holy stutter. Sorry about that. So yeah, obviously that is the 4 p.m. kickoff, but I do think England takes that one. I just think, although this is very great for Holland, to have his goal scoring abilities in Norway coming off 2 great highs, I just think overall England is too strong of a team. We talked about, I saw some, I believe it was, I wanted to say Saka or somebody on the English national team said that they were the underdogs going against Mexico. But in all honesty, You have a $2.5 billion squad. There's no way you're an underdog to Mexico. And I know Norway has Nusa. I know Norway has Ordegaard. I know Norway has Holland. I know they have Ayer. I know they have all these, respectable players, but I just don't think they have what it takes to beat England respectfully. And I do think England pulls it out. Pause. Um, but yeah, so going back to that. So first game on the Saturday, I have, well, let's see. I think I did a different predictions on the real app. So let's see what I had. Let's see. So far, I had Germany beating Paraguay. That wasn't off. Netherlands beating Morocco. That was not good. Senegal beating Belgium. All right. Let's just go to the quarterfinals. Let's see what I had. I had United States, Portugal. Both wrong, obviously. I had France, Morocco. Or France, Netherlands. France beating them. Yeah. So this ain't looking too good right here. I do have France, Brazil final. Oof, that's looking rough. Um, don't want to spoil too much, but yeah. So I do have England beating Norway. I think it'll be a pretty great match. I think all the goal scoring. I think Kane gets him one, at least one. Maybe Jude gets on the score sheet again, and I just gotta say, I just gotta say, like I said, I know I was mad at Jude Bellingham for his performance against Mexico. I just gotta say, man, the English media try to write this guy off, not write him off, but try to say he wasn't worth the call up for the England national team. This guy and Harry Kane have been doing a crazy carry job. And against that Mexico game, in all honesty, Jude Bellingham had a hat trick. I know he had the two goals, but he also had that goal line clearance. I think it was against Edson. Jude Bellingham, man, what a player! What a player! And we could talk about the pedigree comparisons, but in all honesty, they're two completely different profiles of players. Excuse me, but Um, wow, man, Jude Bellingham, and I just think he dominates this midfield once again. I just think, I believe he'll get him one, but also just the way he played last game. Um, I think we talked about the mentality that this English team had going in. Obviously, you don't really you play at an altitude at the Azteca. There's obviously that little bit of worry, but I believe they all had the right mentality, and just Jude's mentality, to be specific, was just amazing, and I think it was infectious, and I think it went to the rest of the English players, and I believe that they can carry that on, and I think Jude and Kane, once again, crazy carry job. I think they lead them to that win against Norway. So yeah, for the first game on Saturday, I do have England beating Norway. What did I say? 3-2, and then for our second game, 8 p.m. game, Switzerland versus Argentina. In all honesty, I think this is a pretty easy game for Argentina. Like I said, I could talk about the corruption. I could talk about all this. I could talk about their Mickey Mouse run, which it is a Mickey Mouse run. Look, just look at this, man. Cape Verde, Egypt, Switzerland. Obviously, you can talk about the faults that other teams had, like Portugal or Uruguay. You could talk about those faults, but it's just crazy to me, man. I don't think it'll be a robbery, so to say, in this game. I just do think that. Wait a minute, huh? Okay, whatever. I thought there would be 101 games. Okay. I do think that Argentina takes this pretty easily. I think it'll be, I'll say 3-0. I think they keep a clean sheet. I don't know if Switzerland can get one by. Is that the right? Yeah, no. So yeah, all honesty, not really much to say left about that game. Like I said, I don't think Switzerland. Not that they don't deserve to be here. They've played great. Obviously, beating Colombia and beating Algeria, whom Algerian, but Colombia, that was a very great win for them. To battle that out and go to penalties and win. I just think Argentina is too much. Like I said, I don't want to talk about the corruption, and we can talk about or not saying that this game will be corrupted. I think Argentina is just the better team in all honesty, and I think they pull out this win. So yeah, then moving on. Sorry, y'all gotta stick with me here. I didn't properly prepare for this. So we have Argentina versus England, which that game will be on the 15th, 2 o'clock kickoff, and then we have a France versus Spain semifinal. So two very great finals. You can arguably say four best countries in the world. I don't know what the FIFA rankings are for these nations. Let's see. I believe Real has them. One, two. Who's two? Who is two? Who's two? Okay, so we have what? Okay, we have France at one, Argentina at two, Spain at three. Yeah, exactly. You have the four best nations in the world going at it in the semifinals, and you can obviously say it's chalk that how all four of the best nations got there, but I just think it shows that these are very clearly the four best nations in the world. And Obviously, there's going to be two very tough brackets to predict, or two very tough games to predict. I think this is where, you know, this shows why this World Cup will arguably be the best of our life, not the best of our lifetime, but best so far. Obviously 2022 was very good. 2014 was very good. And those are what I remember. But yeah, let's just get right into it. Enough lollygagging. For the first semifinal on the 14th, happy birthday to my dad that day. I have France beating Spain. I think Spain. I know I said that France hadn't had the adversity yet. Beating Paraguay or beating Sweden. I don't think Spain necessarily had much adversity either. I think Morocco so far this tournament, I think they're a stronger nation than Portugal, and I think if France do beat Morocco, I think that'll be a better confidence boost and a stronger adversity test than Spain beating Portugal. And I know many people, shout out Box to Box. I believe they said Spain, or I don't know if it was Varva or somebody, but they said Spain was their flops of the tournament, and you can't say they're a flop if they made it to the semifinal, but I do think the levels show, and I know I said against Belgium that it'll be hard because their attacking isn't necessarily their strong point. I just don't think, and I know their defense clean sheets. So I don't think I mentioned that in the Belgium game. Did I? I said 3-1. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna change that to 3-0. That defense has been playing crazy good. Kubarsi's shown levels. Kukukukurea has shown levels. Shout out Madrid player. But yeah, I just do think the levels will be shown here. I think France shows that they're the stronger nation and they have more firepower and they have what it takes in those clutch moments. They have those players that can light up the pitch and go and score and do all this stuff. So I do have France beating Spain, and that puts France in a final once again. That'll be three finals in a row. That'll be Kylian Mbappe's third final in a row. I just think this France team is too strong. And now moving on to the July 15th game, England versus Argentina. I think my bias might be showing a little bit here. I do think England take it. I think when we talk about the adversity that France has faced, or the adversity that Spain has faced. In all honesty, Argentina has faced no adversity. Obviously, you can say, "Oh, well, they had to come back against Egypt. They had scary moments. Tied the game with Cape Verde." In all honesty, I think Argentina plays to their level. I saw Box to Box say that. Shout out to Box to Box. I think when you play a smaller nation, it's kind of hard. You underestimate them. But I think when you play a bigger nation, I don't think Argentina has what it takes to beat England. So I know it might sound crazy. Maybe Messi proves me wrong once again for like the billionth time in my life. And maybe Argentina, we get a France Argentina rematch. That's also why I believe I'm taking England. I don't really want another rematch. I'm hoping for something different. So I do have England beating Argentina in that one. I do think that'll be game of the tournament. Obviously, we could say the final will be game of the tournament, but I do think England Argentina will be a very great game. Hopefully, no controversy in that game. Hopefully, no um penalty, no, none of that. I really do hope for a great game. And I think I want to elaborate on this one a little bit more. I just think that other than Messi, man, I feel like this France team or this Argentina team hasn't really moved me. I feel like Julian hasn't played that good. I feel like Lautaro hasn't played that good. I feel like the defense has obviously shown lapses. Giving up two to Cape Verde. Oh, sorry, two to Cape Verde and two to Egypt. I think that I just think England will be too much, especially with that attack, especially with Kane, Saka, Madueke, Jude Bellingham. I think that this England team will be too much for Argentina to take. And yeah, maybe my bias is showing here, which it probably is as a Ronaldo fan. And someone, don't want to get into politics, but someone who doesn't like Argentina. I just do think England has what it takes, and I think this sets us up for a semifinal. I believe a semifinal 2022, 2022 semifinal rematch. France versus England in the World Cup final, MetLife Stadium, July 19th, 2 o'clock Sunday. I think that France take it. I think I said this I don't know if I said this in our first World Cup predictions video with Junior. Like I said, I think Kylian Mbappe shows reminds the world why he's the best player in the world, or one of the best players in the world. Showing it on the biggest stage on the World Cup. To have, I believe, 7 goals so far this tournament. Excuse me. To have 7 goals this tournament. You know, to who's to say he doesn't get even more against Morocco or more against Spain, and then another in the final. I think he showed that he'll be the best World Cup player that we've seen. I think he breaks the record takes it from Messi and obviously runs away with it. But yeah, I know my logic might be a little bit inconsistent here. Saying that Argentina has to face some adversity or that England, has a better squad than Argentina. I just think France by far and away have the best team. I feel like they're very complete overall. My Nans played great. Their defense, maybe Kunde's been a little bit sus, but midfield's played great, and obviously you have that attack. You have the Olises, you have the Dembele, you have the Mbappe. I just think it's too much for England, and I think that very well could be why Argentina could beat England. Like I said, I know I said other than Messi, this team hasn't really moved me Argentina wise. I do think maybe I'm wrong, and like I said, maybe Messi proves me wrong, and maybe they show the lapses in England's defense. And whoever not makes it, I do just have France as my winners. I don't know how I didn't predict this at first. I think I had them in the final actually against Portugal, but I just think France shows why they're too much. I think Mbappe probably will get golden ball, having the most goals in the tournament. And yeah, like I said, he reminds everybody on the biggest stage why he's one of the best players in the world, why he gets paid the big bucks. And yeah, um, you know, sorry this wasn't too of a deep analytical dive, match by match. I know I kind of already going on 27 minutes, but yeah. So official ball first podcast predictions. We'll go over it one more time. I have France beating Morocco, Spain beating Belgium, Argentina over Switzerland, and then England versus Norway, and then England over Argentina, and France over Spain, and then France over England in the final, and then a third place match. Hopefully they play. You have Lamine going against Messi. I think Lamine takes that. It'll be a finalissima, or I think that's how you say that. Probably said that all wrong. Match that we never got. And I know obviously third place games are considered useless by a lot of nations, but I do think Spain takes that one. If anybody cares. But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'll try and keep the content up. Maybe I'm trying to push some short form content out. Maybe pull out an NBA off season video. I know the Mavs have been making some moves, and obviously we have some crazy moves. So I'll probably get that video up and going next with the off season already in full effect. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Please comment, guys. Please comment if you made it this far, or if you skipped to the end. Please comment. Let me know any critiques or anything y'all think I should change. In the video quality or maybe the way that I speak about things. But yeah, so once again, like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace. Oh, as always, ball first.